Hey, welcome back to Spring River Homestead. I'm Kanan.
I'm Nikki.
And as people get into homesteading, they come across things that they're like, wow, I had no idea that this is so darn hard. So today we're going to talk about the 5 hardest things you're going to have to deal with in homesteading.
So one of the first hardest things you'll find in homesteading is that mistakes cost lives, particularly livestock lives, but that can even go for plants too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I see a lot of first-time gardeners that kill a lot of plants.
Mm-hmm.
But you also see a lot of folks that get chickens that are free-ranging and don't stop to consider their local predators, whether that's, bobcats or hawks or even their own dogs or their neighborhood dogs. And when that kind of stuff happens, it's a mistake and you learn from it. But a lot of times, unfortunately, it'll cost the life of the chicken or even the wild animal that had to be put down because it was picking off the chickens.
Second hardest thing you're going to come up with in homesteading is that you are never going to have enough time to get it all done.
This is my kryptonite, if you will. He's always telling me, you don't have enough time for that. And as homesteaders, especially in the beginning, when you first start out, you want to do all the things, right? You want to collect the chicken eggs and you want to milk the goats and you want to have the huge garden and preserve all the food and make your own bread and your yogurt and cook from scratch every day. And you can't do everything all at once. This time of year, I will admit that pizza around here from the freezer, from the frozen section at the grocery store, happens way more than I would like it to. But honestly, when you've put in a 12 and 14 hour day milking the goats and watering the garden and feeding the livestock and moving the goats around and all the things, sometimes you just have to admit you can't get it all done.
Yeah,
you just can't.
Absolutely.
My work list is usually half done at the end of the day because I just can't do it all. So the next hardest thing to get over when you start out in homesteading, it's kind of a 2-part thing. Either you will never have enough money to do everything you want to do, right? And if you do have the money, you don't have the time.
Right.
Or your situation will never be ideal. And that's probably even the bigger thing, is your situation will never be ideal. So kind of an example of this, I've got a girlfriend who has been wanting to homestead for years. And every time we find her a place that she can actually afford, it's not what she wants. It's always, well, but I want this and I want that and I want a creek and I want it fenced. And honestly, she can't afford half of her wants. So she just sits there, right? She doesn't do anything. She tinkers in town with her little bit of garden and her little, canning projects here and there. But overall, she's not living what she wants to do because it's not ideal. And we see that a lot with people who come into our area and they stay here a year or two and they plant their first garden and the freeze takes it, or they plant their first garden and the smoke stunts it, or they plant their first garden and it gets raided by deer, by ground squirrels. Had that happen one year. And they give up and they leave because it can't be done here. Well, it can be done.
Right.
And you have to work past the fact that the magic vision in your head very seldom works. Homesteading is all about adaptability and overcoming and doing, what you can with what you've got. And I think a lot of newbies forget that. You're never going to have enough money to instantly buy into what you want to do,
But I think there's also the people that they won't start unless it's ideal situations.
Yeah.
Kind of along the way of buying your situation in. But you get those people, and over the last 2 years, if you really have thought that I'm going to wait until may never happen now because of inflation, because of, global tensions and availability. I mean, just the fact of I'm going to wait until that may never happen again. Next thing we're going to talk about, the hardest thing, is finding a balance of DIY. Now, we recently did a video that was talking about when you should buy versus when you should build. And there's got to be a balance, because if you can do all the stuff yourself, again, it's going to go back to you may not have enough time. Or if you can buy it all yourself, you probably have enough money, but then you're probably not going to have enough time to actually use the tool or whatever you're buying.
Yeah, this is another one that always gets me, like, all the time, because like most people know, I just started dairying my goats in the last 2 weeks. I have had milk goats now for 10 years, have wanted to do my own dairy for 9, and the big holdup has been a stanchion, right? Milking on the ground without a stanchion, no bueno, especially if you're trying to do it yourself. And that's been the hang up, right? There's always other pressing needs, and that stanchion has been on the work list for 8.5 years, and I was getting nowhere with it. And so I finally looked at Canaan back in like February, March, and I said, what if I just give up the idea that I'm ever going to build this thing and just buy one? And they're not cheap, especially the one that I bought is not cheap. I got one from Premier One, so I got the nice heavy-duty metal fold down. I can carry it from barn to barn if I need to, with 2 different head gates and side rails and all that fun stuff, because I was never going to get it done. I was just never there's always going to be an animal that's hurt, or a garden that needs to be put in, or, you know, something else going on, and it wasn't becoming a priority. Bought that silly stanchion, and we've been milking for 2 weeks. I got more milk in the refrigerator than I know what to do with. But you got to find that there's a balance in that whole DIY thing. At some point, you just have to kind of accept that maybe you need to buy whatever it is.
And I'll say, of all the things we talked about between projects and everything else, the 5th thing in homesteading you're going to find is the hardest, is staying organized on a daily basis or a monthly basis or an hourly basis on per day. Just what you want to do and how you progress or how you track against that.
And we've struggled with that for years. I mean, all of this stuff is coming from experience, right? We've been doing this for a long time, but there are things that even as non-newbies, we still struggle with. Mm-hmm. Organization is one of those. I have found, I've tried various things over the years.
Right.
We've tried write-down calendars. We've tried spiral notebook work lists. We've tried a million things. Right now, what seems to be working is the daily task list on my Google Calendar on my phone. And even that's not 100%. That we talk it over every morning of what needs to be done today. About once a week, we talk about what needs to be done this week. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have to write down stuff like when are rabbits due? When are birds due to hatch in the incubator? We just had a thing the other day. We had planned to butcher our birds in August, our meat birds. They're ready now. We're moving that thing up to this weekend because it needs to happen.
Yep.
But that means something else has to move, right? So It's all about trying to stay organized. And we have lists upon lists upon lists and try and schedule. And you have to understand, on top of staying organized, is your best laid plans will probably not work out.
Right.
So.
Because your situation, rule number 3, it's never going to be ideal.
Word.
So that's the 5 hardest things in homesteading you're probably going to have to deal with. And if you have any more than that, throw them down in the comments. We'd like to see that, or how do these 5 pertain to you? Tell us about it down in the comments.
Yeah, because I think everybody's got a different version of what's the hardest thing. But those are our 5.
That's it. So that's it for this time on Spray Over Homestead. Stay homesteading out there, guys. Get ready. Things are getting wild and crazy out there.
Happy homesteading and stay safe.